I am so glad to be back with another video. If you watched my last video, you would know that I had to take time out because I had major surgery to remove my fibroids. I think I'll probably do a separate video on that at some stage. I don't know when, just in terms of the entire experience. But as a summary, because I get asked all the time, how are you? How has it been? And I sum it up in 3 words, which is intense, traumatic, and emotional. And that was the experience. And my sister said to me, I wish I had recorded you before you had your surgery, just because of the way how I was talking. And when I had it, I can tell you now that so much has shifted and changed and evolved. And I would say that I actually look at things from a different perspective in the most beautiful way, because it gave me the headspace that I haven't had in such a long time. Because I was thinking that, no, I'll be okay, and da da da, even maybe I'll be able to go back to work before the end of the 6 weeks. And it wasn't like that in any way, shape, or form. And there was a couple of times during that experience I thought, this is going to break me. Like, seriously, it really was a lot. And so coming back to this channel, it's got me thinking about, okay, how do I want to show up? What do I want things to look and feel like? And so as you can see, I have changed where I record from, because my other videos I was in my front room, and I had a thought and I was just like, why are you sitting in your front room with your blinds behind you, just like white blinds? That doesn't even represent a minute small amount of who I am. And so I am bringing you into my wardrobe and also my workspace room, because I feel that it's just more cozy and it's more personal as well. And there is so much that I want to touch on. So I may not be able to get everything in this video, but I will most definitely speak about in the next video to come. But one of the things that it's brought me back to is I shared in one of the first comeback videos around, this channel is all about being built through discipline, and not hype. And also, I shared my 5 core principles. And recently, it's got me thinking about that. And the ethos most definitely stays the same, because that's who I am and that's what I'm about. But it's also important to highlight that being built through discipline and not hype also means not being burnt out by discipline, right? Because I had this idea that before my surgery, there was all these videos that I wanted to do, and I just couldn't do it because I was exhausted, and I just had to stop, and I have to think to myself, do you know what? Just focus on your recovery journey and nothing else. And so that shift my perspective there. But then also with my 5 core principles, which still remain, it's made me look at them just from a different lens, because where I've got, connect, prioritize, commit, complete, and release, those are flexible. They are interchangeable, because it's not a sequence, it's not a method. It's very much a way of me living. And so, whilst I have a way of connecting in the morning, that doesn't mean that I'm not connecting during the day and in the evening. It doesn't mean that I'm not releasing during the day or completing in the morning or during the day. It's like, it's a bit of a cycle in terms of how it works. And that has really helped in terms of thinking about how I'm going to be operating going forward, because I'm not a robot. I'm not one of those people where it's like, right, do this, do that, do that. It's there's so many other important things in life, such as family, such as my incredible friends that I have in my life, and my incredible family. Didn't mean to not have incredible at the start of that. But then there's also so many other things that I enjoy and love doing. And one of the things that I want to share about my recovery is it really made me think about my health, fitness, and wellness journey, all interchangeable. But I can honestly say that if it wasn't for all of those 3 things and how I operate, it would have been a hell of a lot harder for me. It really, really would have, because without those things, There are things during my journey of being on recovery that I probably wouldn't have been able to do. When I think about my level of strength, being able to get myself up out of bed, that was a struggle and it was a challenge for a period of time. And the best way I can describe it is, like when a toddler, if they're on a high bed, right, and they shimmy their way off the bed, that's what it was like for me. I had to figure out, how am I going to get on and off this bed? And it was a lot. Things such as simple as, going to the toilet that you take for granted. And it's like, oh my gosh, hold on a minute. I can't turn. I can't twist. There are things that I used to do that I can't. And probably one of the biggest ones, and it was definitely a mental block for me because my body, my brain was protecting me, is I was hunched over for a long period of time. And so my back started to feel the strain and it was aching. And it got to a point where I was like, brain, we are safe. Like it's okay to now stand up taller. But in order to do that, I had to stand against a wall. I had to stand against a wall to let my brain know, like, look, this is how we need to move forward. And that was a journey within itself. And so, in terms of, looking at life from a different lens and a different perspective, there are so many things that I feel, I wouldn't say I take for granted, but go through life naturally because it just comes and not giving it much thought. But those things are areas of my life that I had the opportunity to reflect on and be like, damn, I am so grateful for movement. I am so grateful to be able to walk, to be able to talk, to be able to see, to be able to hear. I don't have the best eyesight, but I can see, you know? And it's just that whole lens of, yes, I'm building Athletesia and I have my goals, I have my vision, and I have my dreams. But it's also equally important to think about the other things in my life because, as you know, there is so much going on in the world right now. And there are times when I'm just like, what is tomorrow going to be like? What is next week going to be like? Nobody knows. What is next month going to be like? But at the same time, I continue to go and move forward because I know ultimately I'm here for a reason and there is a purpose to that. And so I'm not going to sit back and do nothing. And in terms of going back to the start of what I said for this video, in terms of how I show up, it's always from a place of just being truly authentic and coming from a lens that links to who I am and what I'm about. And maybe, there's some things that you pick up. Hopefully there is. But again, I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to teach. I said I wasn't here to motivate, but who knows? Maybe I'll do motivate. I don't know. But it's just being able to share the journey and the things that crop up. And I just want to go back to one point around, building a business, because obviously I had 6 weeks where I had to recover. And so from an athletesia perspective, everything ultimately had to come to a standstill. You know, as I've shared in a video, I work full time. That came to a standstill. And so it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, okay, being comfortable with knowing that those breaks may show up in life, and it's taking that time and care for yourself. And I have 3 Instagram accounts. So I have my personal private Instagram account with family and friends, and then I have the Athletesia account, and then I have my personal brand account. And I have not been on my personal brand account now for 5 weeks. I think it's been like 5 weeks. And that has been a beautiful thing because I just thought to myself, do you know what? I want to go ghost and I just want to shut down and not necessarily have to think about responding and replying or doing anything else, and just being truly focused on my journey. And I didn't necessarily think that that was going to be the case. I thought that I would be able to kind of keep up with certain life things during my recovery. And I found out that no, even if I wanted to, it just wouldn't have happened. And I feel like I'm actually a lot more stronger for it. And I'll give you an example. I am training again. And when I started training, obviously, being super, super smart about it, right? Because I have to listen to my body. And I can tell you now, when I'm doing something that I'm not meant to be doing, my body is loud and clear with it. So I know what I can do and I know what I can't do. But it very much felt like starting from scratch, because whilst I had strength, the strength that I used to have had dissipated in a way because I wasn't moving my body. I didn't leave the house properly until the fourth week. And that was literally a walk around the block for 30 minutes. And I had runner's itch in my legs. And so I remember that day, and it was pretty warm out. It wasn't warm, or the sun was out and it felt pretty warm. And I was walking and I got to a certain point. I was like, oh my gosh, the blood is running through my legs. They are itching. And I'm like, I need to get home. I need to get home because, if you've ever had runner's itch and all you want to do is just like scratch your legs. And, from that viewpoint, it was like, okay, right, even though it's difficult, I've got to make sure that I'm moving my body in some way, shape, or form that isn't going to have an impact on my recovery journey, because the last thing that I would ever want to do is, cause any damage. But it's also now going back to that point of starting from scratch is, you know, learning how to do things that I used to do again. It took me a long time to be able to be like, okay, maybe I can do like a light, gentle yoga session, such as yin yoga, where I'm on the ground, I'm not doing anything strenuous. And I remember doing my first downward dog after a long time, and I was like, oh my gosh, but can I actually do this? And at the timing of me recording this video, I haven't even been back on my stomach. Like, there are yoga poses where you go on your stomach or even sleeping on my stomach, and I have not done that because for some reason I don't yet feel safe to do that. And where I've had my incision, there's still healing that needs to be done there. So I'm pretty conscious of that. And so it's actually been really interesting to start from scratch because I'm building in a very different way. And what I mean by that is not doing the same things that I was doing before and looking at new ways of doing things. And even when I was recovering, it's like, okay, looking at new ways of getting on and off the bed, looking at new ways of sitting, of standing, of, moving around my apartment. And that's where it links back to where I'm sitting now, of looking at how to do things differently that are truly aligned with where I am and where I'm going. And sometimes I would say that when it comes to change, it's one of those things where it can be quite scary to switch things up, because it's one of those things where you're used to doing things in a certain way and operate in a certain way. But do you know what? Change is an absolutely beautiful thing. And as far as I'm concerned, I have the right to shift and change things as many times as I want to, and as many times as makes sense for me to do so. And that's what I'm always gonna be stand on and be clear about. So this is a bit of a rambling video, I would say. And I've got more to come. But again, it's just being flexible with how things flow and the topics that I talk about. Because yes, there's a business that I'm building, but I'm also a person. I'm also human. So I want to make sure that I bring that side to this channel too. So I will, swap and change with topics and bring in different elements as to, where I might be at. So that's what I'll share for this video. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you so, so much for watching and being subscribed to this channel. And I thought as well, I actually saw someone do this. I'm not going to lie. I saw someone, they held their mic with a ruler and I was like, do you know what? I'm going to try that out, because with this Rode mic, and like when I've got it here, it drags down my top. It doesn't work down there because then it gets like scratchy, you know, the sound of it. And I thought to myself, this kind of works, but hopefully my hand is like shaking, shaking, shaking. We'll see at the end anyway. So yeah, I'm not about hype, but I saw this and I thought, was like, yeah, do you know what? I think I'll take this one on. It makes sense. Anyway, enough of my randomness. Thank you so much again for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you.